it really kind of came to me when I started homeschooling, and I wasn't totally alone when I was homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few people around me. Now we're talking about 20 years ago, about when I started. And I was one of those weird people who, as the wife, I didn't want to homeschool. But my husband was like, well, we can homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had this little girl, and this perfect little girl with her little brown curls, and whenever I told her to do something, she would say, okay.
Aww.
You know, and I didn't want to send her off to public school. I didn't know anything about the public school then.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the one in our neighborhood. I'd never even driven past it.
Mm-hmm.
Still to this day, I have no idea where it was.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And so it was this big, just black hole for
Mm-hmm.
me. And so when my girlfriend started saying, come with me, it's time to register for kindergarten, we'll go do it together. And I panicked. And I don't know why I panicked, but I panicked. It should be a normal part of our lives, right?
Yeah.
To go register your almost 5-year-old for kindergarten. And then my husband, when I started talking to him about how I was feeling, he said, well, we could homeschool. I was like,
no way.
No. Like maybe when I learn how to get the laundry done on a daily basis and have dinner ready by 6 and keep the house clean, then we can add this huge monstrosity called homeschooling onto, but
and
definitely not now.
Yeah.
You know, when I must have been about 26, I think 25 or 26. And it was just beyond anything I could comprehend to add. Of course, I'm thinking 7 hours of schooling every day onto my schedule,
you're thinking that because that's what you went through.
That's what I went through. And luckily, I was so blessed to have 2 friends who are already walking that path.
Cool.
And that was a rarity.
Yeah.
20 years ago, right, in San Diego. And those 2 friends, one had been doing it for several years and another had just started the year before me. And it was actually a different friend whose children were way too young to even be thinking about it, who said, Brenda, you could do this. You could totally do this. I was like, what do you care? Your kids are too little. You don't have to make this decision that I'm having to make right now.
Yeah.
But she convinced me, and just her support, and then knowing that I had mentors to follow, that gave me the courage to make the commitment to try it for 1 year. I'm like, I can't mess up kindergarten. Really, can I?
Yeah.
Can I mess up kindergarten?
Hopefully not.
I hope
because I'm doing it.
And I thought, we'll reevaluate after the first year. I fell in love. I fell in love with watching her learn. I fell in love with me learning because, of course, I picked stuff out of the catalog itself. Was, we get to shop.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a huge amount of fun. And then, of course, I got to pick stuff I was interested in learning and share it with her. And it was joyful. It was really fun. We had our ups and downs, and we had to kind of figure out what school was going to look like for us. But I had people who had already been there and done that. And they were different examples. You know, I could look at this example, looked this way, and this one looked completely different. But I needed those people in my life.
Yeah.
And I know that I would not have continued to do what I was doing if I hadn't had them there.
And by yourself, right? Yeah.
By myself would have been a pull your hair out, cry into your pillow disaster.
Yeah.
That's what it would have been.
No, I totally get that.
And since then, like even in those first couple of years, I would, it became my job, this was my role, to be the homeschooling mom that everybody saw. So we would purposefully go to the grocery store in the middle of the day with the kids, or go to the library during school hours, or to the park or wherever. And I don't know why I felt like this was important, but it was. And everybody needed to know that there were homeschoolers out there, and it was okay to do this, and it was normal.
I love it.
Or something.
Be brave.
Be brave. So, of course, I would get them all dressed up, and I have these 2 little girls, right, 5 and 3, and then a baby boy at the time. And we'd go out, and people would ask us, how come your kids aren't in school? Or, of course, the oldest one.
Yeah.
I said, we homeschool. And some people would just be like, oh my gosh, she's crazy. And they would just walk the other way, right? And others would, the worst thing was when somebody would say to me, oh, I tried that. I did that for a little while. And I didn't think about it until later, after I'd heard that same thing a few times. And I realized that they had to have the courage to take their kids out, to do something out of the box. There had to have been a compelling reason for them to try in the first place. Yeah. But then to go back when they thought it was enough of the right thing to do to do it.
Uh-huh.
And then for some reason to feel like it was a failure. I was reading a lot into it. I was trying to come up with reasons to understand it. But I thought, if they had someone like I had someone to follow, to support them, to strengthen them, hold their hand. Yeah. And, sometimes it's your turn to hold my hand, and sometimes it's my turn to hold your hand.
Yeah.
But at least there's two of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And when I say we, this was me and my little pack of moms in San Diego, right?
Okay.
We started going to a park group, and then that park group kind of found out some stuff about us, specifically our religion, and they didn't want us there anymore.
Oh.
And it was kind of sad.
Yeah.
And so, but then we said, hey, there's like 5 of us. We can start our own park group.
Yeah.
We can go to the park.
All by yourself.
It was this very liberating thing.
Wow, we don't need all of us.
We can just have us.
Yeah.
So the 5 of us start going to the park together, and we met every Friday. I don't remember. It was probably like 11. I remember we'd bring lunch, and that was, the kids had a lot of fun. It was a picnic, and they thought that was great. And 5 turned into 20 eventually. And it was great because we were supporting each other. We were talking our weeks through.
Yeah.
Sometimes I needed what you had to say to me, and sometimes you needed what I had to say to you. Awesome. And it was just this beautiful sharing. And I mean, the kids were learning from each other. It was a great thing. And we were learning about our own kids. Like, I remember even just watching them play together and learning things about my own children, watching them interact.
That's so good.
With the other moms and with the other kids.
Yeah. So you didn't have any set up structure. This is what we're going to do. We're just going to meet at the park and have fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
simple.
Yeah. Very simple.
I can show up. I have all these babies, right? Like by now I had a couple more, and I can show up and I can make a lunch. And actually, you know what? Even that was hard. So sometimes I'd coordinate with another mom. I'll bring a big bowl of pasta salad if you'll bring water and napkins and paper plates and forks.
Hey, people need people.
It was crazy. It was a crazy, fun, sweet time. And that kind of morphed into a little mom's school of 4 of us that were really close. And we all taught something different in the mom's school. We had kids the same ages, so it was very convenient.
Yeah.
We grouped them into these little age groups, and we rotated them around in these little subjects. And then from that, we ended up finding out that we could actually do like a co-op kind of a thing. The other moms in the park day were like, we want in.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, there's no more room in our house.
Yeah, what do we do?
San Diego, postage size houses. So they were just like, somebody's outside, somebody's in the master bedroom, somebody's in the living room, somebody's in the kitchen. That's what you've got. So we did this co-op, and I learned so much. I learned so much from seeing these moms, seeing what their needs were, seeing them interact, sometimes negatively, sometimes positively. Yeah. But understanding, starting to learn what was underneath those reactions and those concerns and those service, or there was just all kinds of stuff going on. And I thought it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful learning experience. And sometimes we were pulling our hair out, going, really? We need help here. Nobody's helping. And then when I left San Diego and I moved, it was, I was all of a sudden, now this was moving to where my family lived in Colorado.
Okay.
I'd been wanting to leave San Diego for 10 years. Yeah. To go back to be with my family. Mm-hmm. And we're driving across the border, and I just waterworks. Waterworks. I was so sad. I was so upset. All of a sudden, I realized that by gaining this dream, I was leaving, and this family that was in Colorado, I was leaving behind this other family. We had been working together.
All your helpers. Yeah.
All of these people that worked together so well. So my husband, bless his heart, says, it's okay. You can do it again. Of course, I didn't want to do it again.
Right. And how much work it takes to build a relationship.
Right? It was a lot of work. And my team was in San Diego, not in Colorado. Yeah. So we went through a process, and we started again. But this time, I'd heard about Commonwealth schools. And I tried to get trained on how to do that, and I never managed to make that happen. But I had a little bit of help. I had a melody in my ear. She was the one who started them. And I had Kathy in my ear, and she was doing the same thing a year before me with our San Diego group. So that's that. They were my mentors at the time, and I plowed straight ahead because I knew that I needed this.
Yeah,
I needed people around me. I needed to be surrounded by other people who were doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, still, I mean, this is a couple years later from when I started, but it was still not a common thing to homeschool.
Yeah.
And we were still getting flack, you know, from people. And
I think it's a really good point that you brought out, is where we're doing it for ourselves. Homeschoolers usually start for their children, but they end up, it's for themselves. Isn't that interesting? We always end up for ourselves. And I've talked to a lot of seasoned homeschoolers, and, oh yeah, I got my education that way. I've got everything this way. And the kids were just like, oh yeah, we were on for the ride. We didn't know what mom was learning. And it didn't really matter, because they'll get their education when they need to get it. But really, we need it. We need it.
Yeah,
and we need a good education too. And we need to be around the people that are doing the same thing and supporting us. Yeah.
Because you can't go through life feeling weird all the time.
Right.
All the time feeling like you're out of place.
Yeah. It's great to feel unique to a point.
Exactly.
And then you gotta have your little corner where you feel safe. I can be unique here, but I can't here.
But I can't always be that way. So I just gathered in what I needed for me.
Yeah.
And for my kids too, because I knew that if I needed it, they needed it. And some of them were so young it wouldn't have mattered, you know. But I did have, my oldest at the time was 13, and then 11, and then 4 boys after that. And so it was really about them and about me. And I had a vision, and I knew what I wanted it to look like. I have a story. Can I tell a story?
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of the things that when I started homeschooling, I was afraid of, like, you know, okay, I thought I could probably teach my kids how to read. I loved reading. And I liked math okay, but there's a lot of books and things, so I had a lot of help. I felt like I could use resources. The thing I was afraid of was poetry. Don't ask me why.
Okay.
Most people would not even think I have to teach my kids poetry. Like, it wouldn't even cross their mind, right?
Yeah.
But I had this traumatic experience in school, and I hated poetry, or so I thought at the time. And I was like, I cannot teach my kids how to do poetry. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I panicked.
Yeah.
And I remember praying about it. This was a really big deal for me. I don't know why.
I love it.
And I don't know, in my mind, I think, you know, you get the scope and sequence. Like, we had the Colorado standards, right? And they were available online at the time. They probably still are. And I looked at them once. And if you want to just like make yourself like want to go hide in a hole, go look at those.
Yeah, I did Utah's, and I went, oh no, I'll never ever reach
we don't
that.
do that. We don't do that.
No,
nobody really does that. No. The public school teachers don't really do that either. So just little, you know, disclaimer so everybody understands. Don't think you have to do that.
You can look, just don't stay. Don't stay.
Don't stay in that place. Even if you do, your kids won't remember most of it anyway.
Nope.
So just go easy. So this poetry thing was an issue, and I made a decision after some prayer and stuff that what I was going to do is I just wasn't gonna. I wasn't.
You were going to avoid it.
I was going to avoid it.
Okay.
I was going to let it sit on the shelf,
and
it was just going to sit there all nice and pretty, and
not ever look at it.
No,
collect
I
dust.
wasn't gonna, exactly. So years go by, and so then we've got that mom school that I talked about. With it was 4 families, and one of the families was Lisa, and she knows I tell this story, so I can go ahead and use her name. So Lisa Moorhead, she's an angel. She's an absolute angel, and she loved literature, all kinds of literature,
even poetry.
So, of course, when we're doing this little mom school, she's teaching literature. I was teaching science, not because I love science, but because somebody had to do it. And I was like, my kids need science. So my girls would come home frequently with these beautifully, artistically done pieces of poetry that I had created with her help. And they both called themselves poets.
Whoa. And you didn't do it.
I didn't do it. Whoa. All I did was keep my mouth shut.
And put your poetry on
the show. And Lisa picked it up.
Yeah.
And she did amazing, beautiful things with it.
I love that.
And so the rest of the story, we were packing my daughter up, my oldest daughter. to go to college. And she had stacks and stacks and stacks of spiral-bound notebooks full of poetry and her writing. And I asked her, okay, what do you want to do with all of this?
Yeah.
And of course, to me, this represents something. This represents my non-failure. I didn't fail at poetry.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And she said, oh, just throw it all away. She's completely non-sentimental, this girl.
Aww.
Okay. And I refused to throw it away. I pretended to throw it away because that's what she wanted. And then I took a lot of it back out and I put it in a box for her for later.
Okay, so I thought the story was going to go, you studied it yourself and learned to love it.
No, but I did learn to love it later.
Okay, so tell us
when I was introduced to Shakespeare. I was
Okay.
introduced to Shakespeare, and I realized I actually did love poetry. I really did.
Yeah.
Now, there's another one. There's another piece to the story.
Okay.
So my second daughter, who's now 22, so that was my 25-year-old. My 22-year-old, she writes music, and she writes lyrics. She literally wakes up in the middle of the night. She's got a little notebook by her bed always. And she'll wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning, and she'll write lyrics to a song.
Cool.
It's poetry.
Yeah.
And she sings and she composes and it's beautiful. And it's
awesome.
a huge part of her life.
Yeah.
So I did what I needed to do. I connected my kids with another mom
With the
who
right
had
person.
that skill and talent. I didn't know that at the time. But by expanding the circle of their connections, I allowed that to happen.
It's awesome. Really awesome. Yeah.
So when I did my 2 years, it was 2 years. It was very clearly 2 years trying to put this Commonwealth school together for the first time. And I so felt like I was neglecting my children and so felt like I was neglecting my husband. And it was a battle inside me constantly. But at the same time, I knew that I'd been told that I had to do this. And I couldn't ignore that.
Yeah.
And so I kept asking for answers. Okay, so how do I balance this? Or how do I do both at the same time? What am I supposed to do? And I wasn't really getting answers. The answer was keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. And there were some things that I was able to take off my plate, and that was great, and that helped. But at the end of 2 years, I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to be the chairman anymore. Because I wrote that into the bylaws that I could only do it for 2 years. Find out.
Perfect.
And I sat back and I looked and I said, wow, I really don't have to be chairman anymore. Things are running.
Yeah.
There's a culture now. There are systems in place. We've figured some things out. And the next person can come in and do, add their layer to all this amazing stuff that we've already done.
Love it.
And so I turned and looked at my family, and this was scary for me. Because I said, okay, this is finished. Now I've got to focus on this. And I have to find out what I've done, what damage I've done. That was my fear, was that I was going to find all this damage.
Yeah.
And I was going to have to work really hard to patch it up and fix it. And there wasn't any.
Wow.
There wasn't any. They had grown. They had flourished. They were thriving.
Yeah.
It was all in my head.
I love that.
It was amazing.
I love that.
It was the Lord taking care of
Yeah,
things.
and they were watching you and learning things that you didn't know that they were learning and that they needed to learn for their mission. Love it. It reminds me of that article that Diane Hopkins wrote. The baby is the lesson.
That was my first thing I read ever before I started homeschooling.
No way.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah, the baby is the answer. So your business, or at that time, the Commonwealth, was the lesson. Yeah, they needed to watch you push through this and unite those people together. And I bet they are so ever grateful. I bet they have some of their best friends from there.
They do. They actually do. Yeah. And on top of that, you know what I realized when I was done with those 2 years? I'm like, my kids think they can do anything.
Oh no, what have I tried?
What have I done?
Oh, what a bad side effect.
I had one daughter who had started a dance school in my basement. I had another daughter who had started a book club in my attic. I had an oldest son who had written a business plan about his future car business.
Wow.
I could almost remember the name of it still. And he was going to do it with the next door neighbor boy. You know, they still talk about it. He's 19 now. He was, 7 then or something. I don't know. But yeah, they thought, because they saw Mom say, this is what I need.
Yeah.
This is what I have to do. and I'm going to plow through and I'm going to do it.
And they saw you hurting. They saw you pushing through. They saw you going through the struggle, and you still are successful. And so therefore I can be. That's the most beautiful thing ever.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, we were grateful for the classes that they were doing at Commonwealth too, because that also kept things going.
Yeah.
But it ended up being a great family lesson.
Yeah. I love that.
To be notified of our newest YouTube videos, be sure to click the subscribe button here. Head over to our new website for the latest gifts and promotions. For more videos like this one, click this playlist here.